In order to accept credit cards, a merchant has to sign up with a payment gateway. These are companies that facilitate transactions with the major credit card networks, so the merchant has a single company to deal with to process all of their transactions. The payment gateway typically equips the merchant with everything they need to process the transaction, such as terminals for retail stores or APIs for websites. When the merchant accepts your credit card, the card and transaction details are transmitted over a secure connection to the payment gateway. The payment gateway will then forward the details to the appropriate card association network. These are owned by the big names you know, like Visa and MasterCard and Discover. The credit card networks play several important roles. They maintain the relationships with thousands of banks, so each payment gateway doesn't have to. They establish standards for the credit card industry, set the interchange fees that banks charge merchants for each transaction, and settle disputes. The card association network then sends the request to the cardholder's bank. That bank checks whether the transaction information is valid, and the account holder has a sufficient balance, and either authorizes or denies it. If the transaction is approved, the funds are placed on hold, which typically shows up in the cardholder's online balance as a pending transaction. The approval or rejection gets sent back down the chain to the merchant, who completes the sale. All of this happens within seconds. That process is just for authorization of the transaction. There is a second process to actually transfer the funds. In order to accept credit cards, the merchant must also open what is known as a merchant account at a bank. This account is often separate from the merchant's primary bank account. Each day, the merchant's payment gateway will send a batch of all the approved transactions to the merchant bank. The merchant bank will take the transactions for the merchant, along with the transactions from other merchants, and send them in batches to the appropriate card association network. The card association network will reconcile the day's transactions from the issuing banks and the merchant bank, apply any transaction fees, and debit or credit each bank's account accordingly. At that time, the merchant's bank will deposit the funds into the merchant's account, which they are free to transfer to their primary account at will. Meanwhile, the issuer's bank also debits the funds from the credit card holder's account, and the transaction is settled.